You talk about efficiencies. Can I play you this? This is an LBC exclusive recording of Penny Mordaunt talking to her local Conservative activists and saying that one of the only levers the government have left is to control spending. Take a listen, if you would.
One of the only levers that we have now to get ourselves motoring again is to reduce our expenditure and control public spending. And traditionally, we've always protected certain budgets, defence, and the schools budget, and things to do with our national security. But everything else, we have got to get more productive in. Government still does a lot of things that we don't need to do, and we have to get serious about stopping things that government doesn't have to do and get better at focusing on the things that only government can do.
Penny Mordaunt speaking to her local activists. What are the things that the government spends money on that it shouldn't spend money on?
Well, if you look at procurement just itself in the NHS, and, I say this as a health minister, one of the things that I've been working on within my portfolio is how we better procure kind of whether it's PPE, vaccines, medicines, because we go through a very traditional route of procuring a lot of those pieces of equipment. And actually, you can do a significant amount there to buy the same amount of stock, but buy it in a much cheaper way.
Has that always been the case?
Yeah, absolutely, but it's not been tackled. So Penny is absolutely right.
You've had 14 years, Minister.
Well, you say we've had 14 years. The first 5 years we were in administration with the Lib Dems.
So it's the Lib Dems' fault. Hang on, there was a Conservative health secretary.
So I'm just trying to explain, when you say the 14 years, the 14 years are made up of 5 years of coalition with the Lib Dems. Yes. They're also made up of a number of years with the DUP, with a confidence supply arrangement.
No, listen, Maria, come on. That is really out. I worked in that government that had the confidence. The DUP had absolutely no say whatsoever. So why is that relevant?
I'm saying to you, well, it's relevant because if you don't have a majority in Parliament, you can't get things through. And you saw at the time...
But you don't need a majority in Parliament to sort out procurement rules.
You do. You have to get past a finance bill in order to be able to pass these fiscal measures. And you saw when Theresa May was in government, we had no majority. We couldn't even get a general election through. And so, to say that wasn't relevant when you don't have a parliamentary majority, that's why Boris went and had a snap election in 2019.
You can't do procurement changes in the NHS without votes in Parliament.
So absolutely. So you may not realise this, but in the NHS, for example, ministers do not have direct control of operational management. It's down to NHS England, and we're at the mercy of NHS England if we give instructions whether they decide to carry them out or not. Procurement is one of those, and that's what I'm saying, and that's what Penny is saying, that we would like to make those changes to ensure that government spending can be reduced. And there are things that we would need to do, and that might need legislative changes, it might need fiscal changes, and you would have to put some of those through Parliament.
And is that in the Conservative manifesto?
Well, you've heard Penny say that. We want to get down government
But that's not
spending.
in the Tory manifesto, what Penny Mordaunt said. So where in the Tory manifesto does it put ministers in charge of NHS budgets to decide where to spend that money better?
Well, that's just one example, but in our manifesto, it clearly says about getting welfare spending down. And Mel Stride has been really clear about some of the measures he's already been putting in to get that welfare spending down.
The thing that you said you want to do to change this, to make this better, isn't in the manifesto.
So mental health, for example, is absolutely...
Why isn't it in the manifesto if it's an absolutely blindingly obvious thing that you think ought to be done in order to spend the public's money better?
So mental health is. We're very clear. We want to get the spend on welfare for people who are suffering with their mental health down, and working with DWP to get people back into work is work we've been doing already. It's in our manifesto to continue that work, because we are spending a huge amount of money on welfare on some people who could be in work that would be actually better for their mental health. And that's something that we have been working very closely with DWP on, and will continue to do so. And that's in our manifesto. So there are examples, clear examples there.
But not the example that you gave that you think Penny Mordaunt is right about, that you're right about, that would help in getting those budgets down. That's not in the manifesto.
You asked me how Penny, whether Penny was right, and I think she is right. There is room to get government spending down in a practical way that will not impact on frontline services. I gave you an example of that, an example that we have been working on already in government to get better deals on procurement, whether that's on medicine, whether that's of equipment, or that's already happening, and we would continue that work if we were re-elected.